Hey, Coach. Good to talk to you.
Hey, Chris.
I find the dynamics around this the cornerback position opposite Tre'Davious very interesting as it pertains to Levi specifically, because he's been going against proven veterans at the position for the better part of the last 3 years. Now he's going against all younger guys, at least as it stands right now, it would seem. Can you just kind of map out the dynamics there at that competition?
You're right. It seems like each year Levi, once he became our starting corner, has had to fend off different guys coming in and vying for the position. And he stood the test, every single time. And I'm sure he's looking forward to training camp. And he's working hard here in the OTAs and doing everything we ask him to do, like he always does. And his attitude has been terrific. And I don't know if he really gets concerned, Chris, about who we draft or who we sign. I don't think he gets concerned about all those things. He lines up and he just comes and competes, every practice, every camp. I mean, that's just who Levi is.
So, would you say that, he probably just says, I'm not going to do anything differently no matter who's lining up, but how do you see the competition there in terms of challenging him at all?
When I talk to our players about competing, Chris, I always talk to them about your greatest competition is yourself. I don't care who's in line with me. I can't control what the general manager or the coaches do when it comes to signing players or not signing certain players, but I can control my preparation and what I have to get done to go out and compete every single day. And that's how we approach it. And Levi's no different. We don't look at a Dane Jackson or someone else as my competition. It's about me taking care of my responsibility, and whatever happens, happens.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, it's John. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, John.
When you went back and looked at things last year, particularly up front, how much do you think not having this aspect of the offseason program kind of set you guys back to learning proper rotations and ultimately allowing you guys to do the things as a pass rush up front that you'd like to do?
Yeah, for sure. Last offseason was challenging, but not only for our team, for every team in the league. So we were really no different than anyone else. But it was definitely a challenge trying to get to that first game and figure out what our rotation was going to be like. And knowing that we had lost a couple of guys in free agency in the offseason and who were going to replace those guys and how we were going to rotate going forward. So it presented some challenges, but as the year went on, we found our groove and our guys really came along and played well for us down the stretch.
And sticking with your evaluations of last year, I know it was a hot topic we discussed many times, but maybe bringing back Star or that space eater in the middle of the defensive line, how do you feel that can elevate and change the dynamic of things with everyone?
It'll be good to have Star back. 2021 is a new year, and every year stands on its own, John. And, we'll see how 2021 goes, but it's a completely new season. There'll be some new faces on our team. There's some different teams on our schedule with different style offenses. It's a different year, but we're hoping to just keep building on, what we have and keep growing as a defense to help our team succeed.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Yes, good morning, Coach Leslie Frazier. George Radney, Challenger Community News. How you doing?
Doing well, George. How are you?
Pretty good. Boy, I can't believe here we are. Another season is on the brink already, and here we go once again. And my first question for you is regarding Ed Oliver. Has Ed Oliver had an opportunity maybe to take a look at that, maybe give him a few reps at that edge rusher position, taking advantage of his quick feet and allowing him to use those feet a little bit more on the outside instead of the inside?
Well, we've kept him at his same position as a 3 technique for us, and he's done a good job for us at that position. And we drafted some guys who we hope will be able to help us as edge players. But we really like Ed as an interior player, and we're looking forward to his maturation over the course of this season and this offseason as well. And we're excited about the position we have him at. We have some other guys outside that we feel really good about, but we're excited about Ed playing in the interior for our defense.
Excellent. And how about Tremaine Edmunds? He strikes me almost as like a hybrid type middle linebacker, where he because of his long arms and his reach, he looks like he could cover a tight end and really go up against those physical tight ends that the Bills face in the AFC and throughout the league. Is that what he is, more of a hybrid type middle linebacker?
Well, he definitely has the ability to be able to cover tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. And he is so long, George, just like you said. And that gives quarterbacks a fit, man, when he's in zone coverage and they're trying to throw over the top of him. And his matchup ability on tight ends really helps him to be effective. So like a lot of teams in this age of football, you're always looking for linebackers that have coverability and are not just downhill run stoppers. So you do need to be that hybrid type, having the ability to be able to cover and pass defense, but also be really stout against the run. And Tremaine, when he's healthy, he's one of those guys.
Yes, indeed. And last question for you. With the rookie defensive end, has Bruce Smith started working with the young man? Is Bruce starting to work with him on, I saw a video a while ago when he was first drafted, like a few days after the draft. He was talking with Bruce Smith via the phone, and Bruce said he was going to work with him on his technique and hands and showing how to use his hands at this level.
Not that I'm aware of. Greg has been here with us throughout these OTAs and not long after the draft. So I'm not sure. I don't think Bruce has had a chance to get with him as of yet.
All right. Well, watch out. Bruce, get a hold of him. Watch out for that young man. Yes, indeed. Okay. He's a lot bigger and longer than Bruce. And I'm sure if he could use some of Bruce's techniques, he'll be all right.
Yes, no doubt. No doubt.
Thank you for your time. And I look forward to speaking with you again during this upcoming season.
Thank you, George.
Hi, Leslie. DanteLastingBills.com. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. When looking back at the tape from last season, what were some of the weaknesses when it came to rushing the passer, and how can that be improved heading into this season?
John alluded to it a little bit in his question earlier, just the continuity and developing the symmetry we wanted with our defensive line early on was a challenge. But as time went on, you know, we got on the same page and really began to put pressure on our quarterback with our four-man rush as the year went on. We didn't always get him on the ground, but we harassed the quarterback enough to affect him. And sometimes in our league, with as quickly as guys are getting the ball out, that can be just as effective. And that came over time. But I think as much as anything, it was just not having a time on task the season that probably affected us as much as anything.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, good to talk to you. We talked to Brandon a few weeks ago, and I can't remember what the specific press conference was, but he was talking about you guys being, you know, in the film room, looking back at that Kansas City game. And I think this is the first time we've got a chance to talk to you since then. You know, being able to watch that multiple times over the course of the offseason, what did you guys learn as a defensive staff from that game, and what you need to do better should you meet the Chiefs again, which you will at least one time this year?
I mean, think Andy Reid gonna listen to this and try to glean anything from it, man. I'm trying to see if that's gonna be the case. We have studied it. We have looked at it. But like I said earlier, you know, 2021 is a different year. We're gonna be a little bit different in some ways. I'm sure the Chiefs are gonna be a little bit different in some ways. And man, we got a lot of good teams on our schedule. You know, we gotta win against. It's not gonna be just about the Kansas City Chiefs. So you know, hopefully we'll be better when we do play them when that time comes in the regular season. And hopefully we'll see them in the postseason, hopefully. But in between that, there's so much that has to get done that my mind really is not on what we have to do to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. It's more about the Buffalo Bills this time of the year and really shaping our roster on defense and getting our guys to understand what we want to get accomplished in 2021. And we're going to have plenty of time to talk about the Chiefs and watch tape on the Chiefs when that time comes.
And, you know, selfishly, I think a lot of us in the Buffalo media are glad to see you back in the role. We like talking to you every week during the season. But I'm just curious. I mean, Brandon was pretty vocal about the disappointment that you didn't get a head coaching job. I think a lot of people around here have been expecting it for a while. Where's your level of disappointment? I know that you're focused on this season, but that opportunity maybe didn't come this past cycle?
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I'm excited about, being back and working with our guys. I would have loved to, I'm not going to lie to you and say I wouldn't have liked an opportunity to be a head coach, but it didn't happen. And, you turn the page and you focus on the task at hand. And I'm excited about our guys, our players, and what we have going here and, what we've established over the last 4 seasons, now going into our 5th year, and looking forward to 2021.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, it's Kim Jones. It's so great to see you. And
Hey, Kim.
this is the time of year I feel like I have a little more freedom. I would just say the NFL is so much better with you in it in whatever capacity. I have great respect for you. So thank you for doing this today and for everything that you do. I had 2 questions, if I may, picking up on George's theme about Tremaine. He is still so young, Leslie, even though he's a veteran. And that's kind of unique. I think he was drafted when he was 19. So with Tremaine, can you truly say, like, this guy's best football is still ahead of him because of the maturation process? That's what I would like to believe as I see a talented player like that grow each year.
Kim, that's exactly how we look at it. When you realize that some of the guys we drafted are older than Tremaine,
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting ready to go into his 4th year in the league. And so he's still a pup in so many ways and still growing and still learning. And so his best football for sure is ahead of him. He just needs to stay healthy. And that is the key, for any football player. But as he stays healthy and continues to grow and develop, his best football is ahead of him. He's going to grow as a leader. He's going to grow in some of the things we ask him to do on the football field, just being in those situations, just being exposed to more situations. So, the story is definitely not written on his career yet. There's a lot more good to come as he continues to develop.
And secondly, and lastly, Leslie, I wanted to pick up on John Scott, who asked you some really good questions about the defensive line. I guess I would just say to you, have you at all talked to your guys about just being more sudden, more aggressive, more intent? I'm not suggesting your guys weren't last year, but I do think that Sean McDermott mentioned at the end of the season, the D-line had to improve. So is there a mentality you're looking for this season and in these off-season months in that D-line?
Yeah, Kim, we're always looking for that aggressive attitude and approach to what we do. With our defensive line, we talk to our defense all the time about everything starts up front for us. On defense, it starts with our defensive line, and that our linebackers and DBs get tired of hearing me say that, but it's the truth. I mean, that's where it starts at for our defense. So our defensive line has to play well for us every week in order for our defense to play at the level we need it to. And I'm looking forward to the infusion of talent that we've added with our draft picks and some of the guys we acquired, along with guys getting more comfortable with Eric Washington, who is an outstanding defensive line coach, along with Jacques Frazier. Those guys did a terrific job under the circumstances last year, bringing our defensive line along. And I think having this off season will benefit our defensive line as much as any group on our defense. So we're excited about, what's ahead.
Thanks, Leslie. Hopefully talk to you in training camp, hopefully. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Hey, Leslie, it's Jay with the Buffalo News. I'm going to kind of continue with the theme on the defensive line. But, when you add Starr coming back and 1st and 2nd round picks to that group, it's a numbers game after a while. And you've got probably NFL caliber players who might get squeezed out. Do you concern yourself at all with the numbers right now and how all of these guys are going to fit up front?
Not so much right now, Jay, because you're trying to get competition. You want to get the best 11 on the field, and you also want to create some quality depth as well, because inevitably there are going to be some injuries. So, no, at this point, we're not concerned with the numbers. We just want to get guys out on the field and let them compete and let the best man win. Because at the end of the day, if we have the right guys, it's going to work out to our benefit on defense and for our team as well. So I think we have the right guys on the roster. Now we just got to see how it plays out once we get pads on. This time of the year, a little tougher to evaluate. But once we get the pads on in training camp, then we'll kind of know what we have.
And I want to ask you about 2 depth guys for your defense. Jaquan Johnson, you guys didn't re-sign Dean Marlowe, and your safety depth behind Micah and Jordan, it's really kind of Jaquan who's got, any experience at all for you. And then Tyrell Adams, who you signed in free agency from Houston, he made a lot of tackles last year for the Texans. What can you tell me about those two guys and sort of how you see them fitting into your defense?
Yeah, I mean, Jaquan has been with us now for a few years, and he understands our system and how we practice and what we ask of our guys in the secondary. So we're glad to have him kind of waiting in the wings a little bit. But we're also excited about our draft pick and Damar Hamlin. We think he has a chance to help us as well, and we'll see how that goes. The fact that we're planning on having a preseason this year, that should help both he and Jaquan just to be able to get out there and get some live reps and for us to be able to evaluate the position. So right now, we think we're in pretty good shape from a backup standpoint, but only time will tell. With TA, we're excited about him. He did a good job there in Houston. He was a tackling machine, and he's done a good job here in our OTAs. We like the depth that we have at linebacker. We have some really quality depth. So he's going to be fighting for a roster spot. I know Heath Farwell, our special teams coach, is excited about Terrell as well. So we'll see how it goes, once we get to camp and we start putting the pads on and doing some things. But he should help us, whether it be as a backup linebacker or on special teams.
Thanks, Leslie. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, Mike Catalana in Rochester. I know you said it starts with the D-line, but with what you have at safety, how does that impact the way you start out thinking about what you want to do defensively? And do you ever sort of take those guys for granted? Because not every team has what you have at safety.
No, you're right about that, Mike. They are two special guys, both Micah and Jordan. I mean, they are special in their own right, and they allow us some flexibility when it comes to what we do schematically. There's some things we can do simply because of who they are. And believe me, whenever those guys are up for contract renewals, I remind Brandon Bean of that. they're unique guys, and we need them here in Buffalo. And fortunately, they're under contract for quite a while. But but our D-line, Mike, really helps our secondary. And that's why we talk about, it starts up front. But there's no question a lot of things we do on defense, we wouldn't be able to do if we didn't have the type of safeties that we have. Guys that can cover, tight ends, running backs, and every now and then we'll put them on the third receiver. You saw Micah in the playoff game against T.Y. Hilton, one of the top receivers in our league, and there he is 40 yards down the field making a play on the ball. And how many safeties can do that in man coverage? So we have some guys with some unique skill sets for sure at safety.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coach Frazier, Mookie Hawkins, Waffle Sports 1080. How you doing, sir?
Good, Mookie. How are you?
I'm great. How was your off season?
It's going well. I mean, this is a good time of the year for us, getting a chance to get to know our roster, getting a chance to get to know the new guys in this off season. But so far, so good.
Absolutely. And so far, so good. This defense has been intact, since you've gotten here. And, how comfortable does that make you in reference to opening up the playbook a little more this year?
Yeah, I mean, you're always trying to tweak things and make it a little bit better. But at the end of the day, Mookie, you better make sure that what you say you are, you're good at that, So we have some principles that we kind of hang our hat on. And yeah, you can tweak some things here and there, but you don't want to get away from what's helped you to be successful. And but yeah, having guys returning, having as many guys returning as we do, you feel confident when you do introduce something new that they're going to let you know, hey, coach, that's too much, or you know what? Yeah, that kind of fits. And that's the beauty of having so many guys returning. You can have that type of dialogue and get some feedback on what works and what doesn't work.
Absolutely. And you know who's been paying attention, right?
Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt. So,
absolutely. And one guy that intrigues me, Dane Jackson. Tell me a little bit of what you've seen in him prematurely. I know it's still early in OTAs. What have you seen in him do different this year than last year?
I was teasing him yesterday. It just seems like he's more confident now. It's still early. We're only in our 5th OTA practice today. But I can see how he's handling himself in the meetings, the way he carries himself in practice. He's not that shy rookie that I saw when we had camp a year ago. That guy who didn't say 2 words and had to pull him up front to just get to know him a little bit. Now he's out there high-fiving and talking with his teammates, laughing and joking. So it's a good thing. You know, he's comfortable with his teammates, and that should allow him to go out and just play free and enjoy the experience.
Absolutely. Hey, Coach, welcome back to football. Enjoy camp.
Thank you.
Hey, Leslie, Matt Fairburn here. I'm curious what your impressions have been. I know it's tough to evaluate defensive line play this early, but what your impressions have been of AJ Epinesa since he's got back in the building and, you know, starting to change his body a little bit.
Yeah, you're right, Matt. This time of the year for the D-line, it's really tough without pads to get the kind of evaluation you want. But what we've seen of AJ, just I don't want to say a total body makeover, but where he is weight-wise and his approach has been really, really good. He spent most of his offseason here in Buffalo working with our strength coach, Eric Schiano, and it's paying off. He's able to maintain his weight, which was an issue for him during the season last year. He was fluctuating and really was hard for him to keep weight up. But now he's more stabilized. He's gotten stronger. He's more explosive. He's really benefited from staying here and working out with our strength staff, something he couldn't do last offseason because of, you know, all the things that were going on. So I'm anxious to see once we get to training camp if some of the things that we're seeing now would transfer to what we're going to do when we put pads on. But man, he looks really, really good at this point.
What do you think, you know, the ideal weight is in your mind for him to kind of have that sweet spot of power and quickness?
You know, if he could get to around 255, 258, maybe that would be really, really good. I think, you know, it's been a challenge for him to get to that point, but we'll see. I mean, he's getting closer, but where he is right now, he's close to where we would want him to be. The key will be what happens once we end this off-season program and the guys go away for the summer. You know, what will happen between that time and the time we come back to camp. And I've already had that conversation with him, and he really has to work hard and think about maybe coming back a little bit sooner than maybe some of the other guys. And he's willing to do that, but he knows the importance of being able to keep his weight up in order for him to be most effective on the field.
What do you think of, you know, Brandon Beane mentioned with both the guys you drafted, Boogie and Greg, that they have the ability to kick inside. I know AJ's done that before. Mario's done it before. The options you have now with so many versatile guys that can play on the edge and can move inside, how do you kind of approach that as a defensive coordinator when you're installing the scheme?
Well, it's exactly what you want. You know, you want to be able to have that versatility. It's a lot tougher without it. And the fact that both Greg and Carlos can go in and out should help our defense. And then you got a guy like F.A. Abada as well who can do the same thing. It just gives you some flexibility when you're putting things together for opponents that should help us in the future. And it's a good problem to have. And, you know, anxious as well to get to camp and just see how it all comes together. We have some ideas how we want to use those guys' skill set. But until you get the pads on, until you start moving around a little bit, you really don't know how it's all going to gel. So we'll find that out, you know, soon.
Thanks, Leslie. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hi, Leslie. Mark Gahn here. Good to talk to you again. Following up on Matt's question, you know, your two rookies. It's the first time we've gotten to talk to you. You know, just what did you like best about Greg and Boogie? And, you know, I mean, Greg having not played in 2019. And, you know, there was a lot of talk that, you know, he's got versatile, but is he actually good enough on the edge? So anyway, what do you like about those two guys? And what do you think about Greg's potential actually on the edge as a pure edge rusher?
Yeah. I really like what I've seen in Greg, and I understand some of the concerns that were out there, especially with the fact that he missed so much football all of 2020, along with, you know, having a limited views, you know, prior to the 1 year we had, you know, all the sacks. But you like the length, but you also like the coachability. He's a guy, Mark, who when I watch Eric Washington talking to him about technique, about fundamentals. I mean, when he hears something, he's one of those guys who can put it into action like right away. He's able to process the information, take it to the grass, and then be able to complete what you're asking him to do. And there aren't a lot of guys, even at our level, that can get that done. It takes repetition for some. Greg's not one of those guys. I mean, once you show him or tell him what you're looking for, then he's able to go out and execute that. I think he has the ability to be a really good edge rusher, more so because of his length and his feel for the game. He's a guy who, when we watched him on tape and even now watching him in person, he just has a knack. And there are some guys like that who have a knack for finding their way to the quarterback and being able to slip off of blocks and just have the instincts in the field for doing it. And I think he's one of those guys, and I think his length is going to give people trouble. Carlos, he's a little further along because he's played more football in college, so he's probably a little more polished in that way. But not to say that Greg won't get to where he is as he gains more reps and gets back into the groove. But Carlos has the ability, as was mentioned earlier, to play both inside and outside, much like Greg does. But he's a heavier guy who could probably play in early downs inside as well as play on the edge in early downs. So he gives you some versatility that you don't always see in a rookie. And much like Greg, he's one of those guys, when you share with him what you're looking for, what your expectations are, he's able to carry that out. And that's what you want when you're talking about football players, guys that are thinking man players, that when stuff happens in the game, they can come to the sideline and communicate to you what they're seeing, what type of blocks they're getting, so you can make the corrections before they go out the next series. And that gives you a chance to be successful. So we've been very, very impressed with the fact that they both are students of the game. They love football and they're passionate about it. And that's half the battle.
That's great. And then, we trying to squeeze one last one in here. The nickel position, Jim Salgado, does he essentially coach the nickels cornerbacks, or is it more also the sub package back end? And then, behind Taryn, you've got Saran. Who else would compete at nickel?
Yeah, Jimmy, to answer your first question, Jimmy works primarily with our nickels, although this year, Mark, he's going to also split some time with our linebackers, because the nickel position is, in a lot of ways, an outside linebacker. So he's going to assist Bob Babbage and some of the things they're doing coverage-wise between our outside backers and our nickel back because of the similarity in the positions. In the backups, you mentioned Saran, but we also have Cam Lewis, who's fighting for a spot. And we want to see eventually, can some of our young guys that we sign, whether it's Richard, Wild Goose, or Elijah Griffin, or DeMar Hamlin as well, give those guys a chance to compete for the position. But we're counting on, obviously, for what Taryn did for us last year was tremendous, along with Saran and Cam, and then bringing the young guys along as well.
Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.